monsters, and welcome to the Horror Files. I am your host, Ed Live Dana, and on this podcast, I dive into a particular horror movie each episode, providing insights and reviews as well as the latest in horror movie news. And the Summer of Scares series continues, and today we have a film full of horrible teen drivers, a hook-handed killer, beauty pageants, fireworks, yelling in the middle of the street, and one bad case of crabs. And I don't mean from Ryan Phillipe. That's right, monsters. On this episode, I will be talking about the 90s teen slasher, I Know What You Did Last Summer, from 1997.
So the boy and girl are making out, right? When they hear over the radio that this lunatic killer's escaped from an insane asylum.
That's not the way it goes. The boy goes for help, and the girl stays in the car, and she hears this, scratching sound.
No, he's been decapitated.
No, he was gutted with a hook.
Oh my God.
I think he's dead.
We can't just leave him here.
Oh, tell me, little Miss Prelaw, what's the charge for manslaughter? We make a pact. Right here and now we take this to our grave.
For the last year, 4 friends have kept a secret.
Are you on drugs?
No.
Well, then what is wrong? I've had a rough year.
But not all secrets stay buried.
Somebody sent this to me. Oh my God.
Someone knows.
I know what you did last summer. Ooh.
What they thought would be a new beginning
Toast to us.
is becoming a dead end.
Somebody tried to kill you last night. We have to go to the police.
If he wanted me dead, he could have done it.
And the mistake they made
It was an accident.
There was no accident. It was murder.
What if he's still alive? Hey!
What are you doing here?
is coming back to haunt them.
Oh my God.
He's after me, too. I got a letter. I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off. Julie gets a body in a trunk, and you get a letter? That's balanced.
He's waiting for us to unravel.
The wait is over.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
You did last summer.
So IMDb describes the plot for I Know What You Did Last Summer as follows. 4 young friends bound by a tragic accident are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac in their small seaside town. The film was directed by Jim Gillespie, written by Kevin Williamson of Scream fame, and Lois Duncan, who wrote the original story, and stars Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ryan Phillipe, and Freddie Prinze Jr., as well as the late Anne Heche. Now, before I really get into things, a couple just little tidbits. You know I like to do this. So Jennifer Love Hewitt had just appeared along Jamie Lee Curtis in House Arrest in 1997 prior to filming this movie, and was surprised to see that she was also filming a movie in North Carolina at the same time. So Jennifer said Jamie would come over to the soundstage to wish her luck on her first horror film, and then would come over every day after that to give her a hug, which is kind of sweet. You know, you get blessed by the screen queen herself, for your first horror film. So that's kind of nice. The rocky roads that surround Dawson's Beach, where Julie, Ray, Helen, and Barry have their hit and run, and then later Julie travels across frequently, is the same mountainous road location used in the Alfred Hitchcock classic The Birds from 1963. Reese Witherspoon actually auditioned for this role, this film. Not sure which one, if she did for Jennifer's or for Sarah's role. But in any case, she changed her mind and withdrew. She did, however, recommend her then boyfriend, Ryan Phillipe, for the role of Barry. Also in the movie, the Shivers department store located in Southport, North Carolina, and owned by Helen Shivers, that's Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, her family, is actually a real store called Harold's Department Store that's located in, or was located in Burgaw, North Carolina. As of 2019, the store looked very similar to the Shiver store in the movie. Apparently, they sold a mix of clothing and home appliances, but sadly, as of 2023, the store is now permanently closed. The one big issue that I had with this film is the sign for the Shivers department store, because it's obviously Helen's last name. There is an apostrophe between the R and the S. And if it's your name and it's possessive, then it should be SHIVERS apostrophe, or just Shivers. You know, you don't have to even use the apostrophe, but that apostrophe between the R and the S drives me crazy every single time I see this movie. So in any case, please be advised, there will be spoilers from this point on. So it's July 4th, 1996. It's Southport, North Carolina. Julie James, which is Jennifer Love Hewitt, and her friends Ray, Helen, and Barry drive to the beach. And on their way back from the festivities, they accidentally hit a pedestrian.
Alright, what the hell is this crap?
I don't know.
Is everybody okay?
Oh, I think it was an animal.
Good, you're bleeding.
It's not mine. It must have been a dog or something. Jesus Christ, my fucking car! You fuck! Can't you see where you're going? Look, it came out of nowhere. I didn't see it.
Dog couldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, a fucking deer could. Look, you dropped your bottle. I was just trying to... My dad is gonna freak on my
It was
ass.
an accident. Leave him alone. Where is it? If it was a deer, then where is it?
Look, man, maybe it ran off.
I hope so. I hope we didn't kill it.
Fuck that. Let's go.
Oh my God.
No way.
Oh my God. But I thought,
I didn't see it. No, there's no way.
oh my God, this isn't happening.
Check that sign. Yeah. Come on. Helen. I couldn't see it. Look, I swear.
Is he dead?
I don't know. Check his pulse. No way. You're the one who rammed it.
Just do it.
I think he's dead.
So Julie's friend Max passes them on the road. Barry and Helen try to dump the body in the water, but the pedestrian wakes up and grabs Helen. Barry pushes him into the water, and the group swears never to discuss what happened. So now it's 1 year later, and Julie returns home from college for the summer. She looks, fairly different. I mean, she's very drawn with, when we saw her, like, her hair was all curly and bouncy and, all this kind of stuff. And now she's just like, her face is kind of sunken. Her hair is flat. Doesn't look like she's taking care of herself. So she returns home from college for the summer, and the friends have, basically gone their separate ways. None of them pursuing their dreams. due to kind of struggling with this incident. And then Julie receives a letter stating, "I know what you did last summer."
That's mail. The letter came today. It's not your report card, though. That came last week.
Mom, I know it looks bad, but the summer session went really well.
Well, it would have to, because according to the dean, you only have one more chance.
It's not that serious, really.
What happened to my daughter? I mean, you went away, and you don't call, and you don't visit. Your father must be turning over in his grave.
Who sent this? There's no postmark or return address.
Your guess is as good as mine. Why? What does it say?
Nothing.
So she and Helen take the note to Barry, who suspects Max, because Max was the only person that they ran into after all of this had happened. Julie meets Ray, who now works as a fisherman, and then Max is killed by a figure in a raincoat wielding a hook. And that night, Barry is ambushed by the assailant, stealing and driving his car. Julie then researches newspaper articles, believing that the man they ran over was a local named David Egan. So Helen and Julie meet David's sister, Missy, played by Anne Heche, at her home. Missy explains that a friend of David's named Billy Blue, what is this name, visited her to pay his respects. That night, the killer sneaks into Helen's house and cuts off her hair while she sleeps. The following morning, Julie finds Max's corpse wearing Barry's stolen jacket and covered in crabs in the trunk of her car, and when she tries to show the others, the body has gone missing.
Don't ask me that again. He was dead, okay? I saw him with these crabs. You do it. No, don't even. He was there, god damn it, and he was wearing your jacket, Barry.
Where'd he go? Did the crabs carry him away?
I swear to God. I believe you, Julie. He took the body. He came here. He took the body.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. Barry, okay, why would he try to run you over? Why did he make coleslaw on Helen's head? He's fucking with us.
Come on, Julie. Let's go back to the house.
Where's your jacket, Barry? Look, don't you see? He's got us now. Okay, this is exactly what he wants. We can't go to the police. Not now. He's made sure of that. He's just out there and he's watching us and waiting. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
So I want to talk a little bit about this clip because obviously it's probably the most famous, most parodied from this film. When she does this twirling around and asking the killer what it's waiting for, even though he's nowhere to be seen, so it kind of looks like she's talking to thin air. When she spoke with US Weekly in 2018, Jennifer Love Hewitt revealed that this iconic scene was actually a kid's idea. She said, quote, "That scene was actually directed by a kid who won a contest to come on and create a moment for the movie, and it became the biggest part of the movie." She said she had no idea where he was now, but that she wasn't thrilled about the idea of the scene at first, saying, quote, "He's like, I want her to stand in the street and turn around and just scream, 'What are you waiting for, huh?'" And Jennifer said, "I was literally like, are you kidding me right now? This is what I'm going to do? Okay." And this was a great idea. So I think that's pretty funny. I think something similar kind of happened with Thor Ragnarok, with that he's a friend from work line. I think a kid did that one too. So I don't know. Maybe we should just get kids to like write this stuff, right? We don't have to pay them that much. Less than adults, huh? And they actually come up with some good ideas. So Julie, Helen, and Barry confront Ray, who claims to have also received a letter. Julie goes back to visit Missy while Barry and Helen participate in the 4th of July parade. Missy reveals that David allegedly committed suicide out of guilt for the death of his girlfriend, Susie Willis, in a car accident, and shows David's suicide note. But as the writing matches that of the note that she received, Julie realizes it was not a suicide note, but a death threat. So at the Croker beauty pageant, Helen witnesses Barry being murdered on the balcony, but finds no sign of the killer or Barry.
And now, let's meet last year's winner, Miss Helen Shivers.
Beautiful girl, you're a lovely picture, beautiful girl. You're a gorgeous mixture of all that lies under those big blue skies. My heart
Now, to continue with our pageant, we'll move into the talent competition. All right, ladies.
What's the problem?
Help him! He's gonna kill him!
Who? Who's killing who?
Up in the balcony!
All right, everybody stay calm.
Get off of me!
People just move back in your seats. Everything's under control here. Y'all move back in your seats now, please. Thank you. Everybody move back.
Yep. Stay behind me, okay?
All right, ladies, places, please.
There's nobody up here. I gotta tell you, this is really not my idea of a funny joke either, you know?
He was here.
Who? Who was
Fisherman, he killed Barry.
Barry who? Who are we talking about? There's nobody up here. Come on, let's go back downstairs. Come on. Come on, there's nobody up here.
The police officer escorting her home is then murdered by the killer. Helen runs to her family's store where the killer murders her sister Elsa. She escapes and runs towards the street, but the killer unfortunately gets to her first. I like that little scene, actually, the one that takes place in the store with the mannequins. That was a pretty good little kind of chase scene. So Julie finds an article mentioning Susie's father, Ben Willis, and realizes Ben was the man that they ran over moments after he killed David to avenge his daughter. You following me? This is the part I always get confused by. So she goes to tell Ray, but notices Ray's boat is called Billy Blue. And a fisherman knocks Ray unconscious. The fisherman knocks Ray unconscious, inviting Julie to hide on his boat. On the boat, she finds photos and articles about her and her friends and pictures of Susie. The boat leaves the docks, and the fisherman, of course, is revealed to be Ben Willis, who is targeting them in revenge for leaving him dead. Ben chases Julie below deck, where she uncovers the bodies of Helen and Barry in the icebox, and Ray awakens and goes to rescue Julie. He ultimately uses the rigging to sever Ben's hand and send him overboard.
July, Julie.
Please, it was an accident.
I know all about accidents. And let me give you some advice. When you leave a man for dead, make sure he's really dead.
So Ray explains to Julie that he posed as David's friend, Billy Blue, and visited Missy out of guilt. The couple reconcile, relieved to not actually killed anyone after all. And a year later, in 1998, Julie is in college in Boston. As she enters the shower, she notices the words "I still know" written on the steam on the shower door, and a dark figure then crashes through the door as she screams. And roll credits. I love this because I don't believe that ending is addressed in any way in the sequel for this film. I still know what you did last summer, so it's like, what the fuck happened? It's a weird way because it seems like she got killed or something happened to her at the very end. So yeah. So let's get into the background of this film. So it was a screenplay that was written by Kevin Williamson in the 1980s and part of the 1990s. And it wasn't until 1996 that the screenplay was rushed into production by Columbia Pictures, basically banking upon the success of Williamson's Scream, released the same year. So the film is based on a 1973 novel of the same name by Lois Duncan. Some of you may have read it. I think I did read it when I was a kid. I read those and the Christopher Pike books. I used to love. Like, I would just devour them. So it was this obviously youth-targeted suspense novel about 4 people, young kids, who are involved in a hit-and-run accident involving a young boy. So producer Eric Feig He pitched the idea of a screen adaptation to Mandalay Entertainment and subsequently appointed Williamson to retool the core elements of the novel, rendering the screenplay more akin to like a 1980s slasher film, which makes sense, coming off of the success of Scream. And inspired by his father, who had been a commercial fisherman, Williamson decided to change the setting of the novel to a small fishing village and made the villain a hook-wielding fisherman. And the killer's arming of himself with a hook is a reference to an urban legend. It's called The Hook. I'm sure many of you have heard of this one. I mean, if you're of my generation, you definitely have. Which the four main characters recount at the beginning of the film around a campfire. And according to Williamson, he wrote the scene as a way of indicating what was to come, saying, quote, basically what I was doing was I was setting the framework to say, all right, audience, that's that legend. Now here's a new one. So unlike his screenplay for the film's contemporary Scream, which incorporated satire of the slasher film genre, I Know What You Did Last Summer was written more as a straightforward slasher film. Gillespie commented in 2008, quote, the joy of this film for me as a filmmaker was in taking the elements that we've seen before and saying to the audience, here's something you've seen before, knowing that they're saying, we've seen this before, and still getting them to jump. Gillespie also claimed that he felt Williamson's screenplay did not resemble a slasher horror movie, and that he saw it rather as simply a really good story with a morality tale embedded within it. So he actually, Williamson wrote this script before his screenplay for Scream, but was unable to sell it. And so, of course, after that success, Columbia, bought it, and they were like, let's capitalize on this huge success of a horror film. Because I Know is mostly a straight up modern update of the old slasher horror film rather than a deconstruction of the genre like Scream was. Many critics and film fans kind of felt this was a huge step down from Williamson's more clever and innovative Scream script. Now, according to producer Stokely Chafin, the producer sought out actors who were, quote, beautiful but likable. Gillespie recalled that though he had been unfamiliar with the screenplay source material, that, quote, roughly 60 to 65% of the young women auditioning had read the novel as children. Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was at the time mainly known for her roles on TV, like in Party of Five, she was cast as the lead of Julie based on her, quote, ability to project vulnerability, which the producers, director Gillespie and Williamson unanimously agreed upon. Initially, Hewitt was considered for the role of Helen. Melissa Joan Hart was offered a role, but she turned it down because she felt that the film was a ripoff of Scream. For the role of Barry, the crew had envisioned an actor with a 6'2" quarterback appearance, as the character had been written as an intimidating figure. Ryan Phillipe, who was recommended by Reese Witherspoon, was ultimately cast in the part based on his audition, despite the fact that he was not as physically tall as the script had called for. Gillespie chose Freddie Prinze Jr. for the role of Ray because he felt Prinze himself had a very, quote, everyman quality, much like the character. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar was the last of the lead performers to be cast as Helen. Like Hewitt, Gellar was also known to audiences at that time for her roles in television. And Gillespie said about Gellar, quote, I wanted an actress that had a warmth to her, but could still come off as being a bitch. And for the supporting role of Missy, Gillespie sought an actress with significant screen presence, as the character, despite basically only appearing in 2 scenes, is central to several major plot points. And Anne Heche was cast in the role, which she recalled as being 2 days worth of work that required her to, quote, be scary. So the filming of this film, of course, there's a couple of different locations. Of course, North Carolina was one, but also the cliff in the rock shown at the beginning of the film, that was shot at Colmer Gulch near Jenner, California. So Jim Gillespie was actually hired to direct this film after being suggested by Williamson. Hewitt would later state in 2008 that Gillespie was to date her favorite actor, favorite director she's ever worked with. Principal photography began on March 31st, 1997, and took place over a period of 10 weeks throughout the late spring and early summer of 97. Approximately 7 weeks of the 10-week shoot took place at night, which Gillespie said was difficult for the cast and crew and also created commotion in the primary small town locations, which they shot in. Gillespie devised a color scheme with cinematographer Dennis Crossan, which was marked by heavy blues throughout and a notable lack of bright colors. So you kind of see that in the cinematography. It's very muted. It's very cold in some respects, except when there's like more lighter moments that kind of happen. So yeah. So for the beginning of the film, the coastal areas of Sonoma County, California actually stood in for North Carolina, where the film is set. Again, the opening shots of the sun setting were filmed in Jenner. The car crash scene was also filmed on Highway 1 in the same area, and the scene in which the four friends are seated around a campfire on a beach next to a wrecked boat was inspired by a painting Gillespie had seen in a reference book. And to kind of achieve that image, the art department purchased an old boat and cut it in half and placed it at the beach location. So again, the majority of the film was set in Southport, North Carolina. The remaining scenes were filmed primarily around the town of Southport and the Amuzu Theater, where the beauty pageant is held, the Old Yacht Basin, and Southport Fish Company. Julie's house is on Short Street, just north of Southport Marina. The daytime sequences shot on the marina, they show multiple vessels, going through the water. And though they're real, the boat traffic was orchestrated by a marine traffic coordinator to make the waterway appear lively. The Shivers department store, of course, was discovered on location by Gillespie, who was so impressed by the location that he reworked elements of the script in order to incorporate it into the film. And of course, it became the primary setting for Helen's extended chase with the killer. The exterior sequences of Julie's Boston College campus were in fact shot at Duke University, and the hospital sequence was filmed at Southport's Dosher Memorial Hospital in this unused wing. The final sequence on the boat was shot on an actual water-bound vessel on the Cape Fear River, which of course is infamous because there's another film that uses that location, Cape Fear. And this proved difficult for the actors and the crew. According to Gillespie, the filmmakers nearly lost the boat while attempting to dock it due to the volatile waters, after which they were forced to leave and shoot other footage until the following day. So after filming this, Gillespie chose to film virtually no on-screen blood, as he did not want the film to be overly gratuitous in terms of violence. The scene in which Elsa has her throat slashed while standing against the glass door had originally been shot from behind without any blood appearing on the glass. However, producer Feig worried that the scene appeared, quote, medically impossible, after which Gillespie reshot it post-principal with a visual effect of blood spattering on the glass. And upon test screenings of the film, Gillespie and the producers decided that a death sequence needed to occur earlier in the film to establish a sense of legitimate danger for the main characters. And so that scene in which Max is murdered in the crab factory was subsequently filmed and implemented into the final cut to achieve this. In the original script, his character wasn't killed. The original ending of the film featured a sequence in which Julie receives an email that says, "I still know." This ending was scrapped for the more dramatic ending featured in the final cut of the film, where Julie finds the same message on the shower stall. This footage was also shot after principal photography on a soundstage next to where she was filming Party of Five. So this movie isn't without its controversies, believe it or not. Excuse me. So Miramax won a subsequent lawsuit against Columbia during a March 1998 hearing. In a press release, executive Bob Weinstein had noted plans to vigorously pursue damage claims against Columbia Pictures for the use of their claim. So here's a little bit of background here. So in anticipation of the film's release, Columbia Pictures began a summer marketing campaign that presented the film as being, quote, from the creator of Scream. Now, Miramax Films subsequently filed a lawsuit against Columbia, arguing that the claim was inaccurate as the director of Scream was Wes Craven, not Williamson. The week following the film's theatrical release, a federal judge awarded Miramax with an injunction requiring that Columbia remove the claim from their advertising campaign. Williamson had requested its removal, actually, prior after he had seen it on a theater poster. So the film was released on VHS and DVD by Columbia TriStar Home Video in the U.S. on June 16, 1998. Special features included a theatrical trailer and the filmmaker's commentary. Sony Pictures released the film on Blu-ray for the first time on July 22nd, 2008, with an additional special features that included the director's short film, Joyride. On September 30th, 2014, Mill Creek Entertainment re-released the film on Blu-ray as a budget disc, featuring the film alone with no bonus materials. But then on September 27, 2022, Sony Pictures Home Entertainment re-released the film for the first time on Ultra HD Blu-ray for its 25th anniversary. Now, the film opened theatrically in North America on October 17th, 1997. Perfect timing for a Halloween release. The film had been made on a $17 million budget, yet in its opening weekend, it grossed over 15 million, I think in 2005, like over 2,500 theaters in the US and Canada. Which it hit number one. It remained in the number one position for an additional 2 weekends. And by the end of its theatrical run in December of 97, it had grossed $72 million in the US and Canada and $53 million in other countries for a total worldwide gross of $126 million. According to data that was compiled by Box Office Mojo, the film is the 7th highest grossing slasher film as of 2021. That's probably changed, but in retrospect, director Gillespie had said, quote, "It was meant to be a kind of standalone revisit of those classic 80s horror films, and it worked. The movie was number one 3 weeks in a row. It just clicked with the audience. The title clicked, and everything just seemed to work. Third week was Halloween weekend, and it was number one in its third week. I couldn't believe it stuck there for 3 weeks." So the critical response to this film drew both positive and negative comparisons to Scream, because it just was going to. This was the same, Williamson had also wrote Scream, and it also came out within, a short amount of time, and Scream was a enormous hit. So Mick LaSalle considered the movie inferior to its predecessor. Richard Harrington, on the other hand, cited I Know What You Did Last Summer as superior to Scream. He described the newer picture as, quote, a smart and sharply drawn genre film with a moral center and with a solid cast of young actors to hold it. Derek Ely of Variety was also enthusiastic, calling the film, quote, a polished genre piece with superior fright elements that should perform better than average theatrical levels. Roger Ebert gave the movie 1 of 4 stars and wrote that, quote, "The best shot in this film is the first one. Not a good sign." Entertainment Weekly praised Jennifer Love Hewitt's performance, noting that she, quote, "knows how to scream with soul." Lawrence Van Gelder of the New York Times wrote of the picture, quote, "This isn't real life. It's the grand guignol of I Know What You Did Last Summer, laying its claim to succeed Scream as the highest grossing and blood-drenched date night crowd pleaser. And why shouldn't it?" James Kendrick of the Q Network wrote that, quote, "Williamson's characters are all generic types, but they're still believable as people, and they react realistically according to the situations." Kendrick added that the film was, quote, "head and shoulders above earlier, quote, dead teenager movies." TV Guide's Maitland McDonagh awarded the movie 2 out of 5 stars, noting, quote, "Screenwriter Kevin Williamson takes a step backwards and writes the kind of movie Scream mocks. You can see him now soaking up videos of Friday the 13th and Halloween, not to mention the lesser likes of He Knows You're Alone, Terror Train, and My Bloody Valentine, and saying, I can do that, and boy does he ever." Critic James Bertinelli credited both I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream with igniting a new boom of slasher films, adding, quote, "There is one minor aspect of the plot that elevates I Know What You Did Last Summer above the level of a typical 80s slasher flick. Ugh. It has an interesting subtext, and I'm referring to the way the lives and friendships of these 4 individuals crumble in the wake of their accident. Guilt, confusion, and doubt build in them until they can no longer stand to be with each other or look at themselves in the mirror. And sadly, this potentially fascinating element of the movie is dismissed quickly to facilitate a higher body count. And, as I've said before, a few extra deaths can only make a slasher movie better, right? Movie historian Leonard Maltin gave the film 2 out of a possible 4 stars. He described it as, quote, "too routine to succeed overall. Despite being based on a young adult novel, this is absolutely not for kids. Still, it's a classic compared to the sequel." We'll talk about that. Motion picture scholar Adam Rockoff noted in his book Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film, says that at the time of its release, many critics branded I Know What You Did Last Summer as an imitation of Scream. However, he contends that it is, quote, "a much different film, despite both screenplays being penned by the same writer," saying, "Whereas Scream relied heavily on self-conscious references and its pop culture veneer, I Know What You Did Last Summer was a throwback to the slasher films of the early 80s. While, like Scream, it employed the services of a group of young, sexy, and almost impossibly good-looking actors, I Know What You Did Last Summer played its horror straight. Those looking for a good old-fashioned slasher film were pleasantly surprised." However, not everybody was as positive. And that includes the writer of the original story it was based on, Lois Duncan. Now, she heavily criticized the film adaptation, and she stated in a 2002 interview that she was, quote, "appalled that her story was turned into a slasher film." Now, this isn't just because she thought it was bad. This was due to the fact that her youngest daughter was murdered by an unknown assailant in 1989. And she said, quote, "As the mother of a murdered child, I don't find violent death something to squeal and giggle about." Her original book wasn't that far off from a slasher, though. It's still a bunch of guilty teenagers being stalked and terrorized by a murderous madman. But the thing is that nobody dies in her version. So in that sense, it's more like an old school mystery. So yeah, Lois did not like that. This film has a Metacritic score of 52, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 46%, and a Letterboxd rating of 2.4 out of 5. My rating, it may seem a little low. This film is all right. I'm straight down the middle with it. So I give it a 5 out of 10. Older generations kind of complaining about the behavior and attitudes of, kids these days is sort of a trope that's very, very old. For an older viewer watching standard slasher films like Friday the 13th, it might be satisfying to watch annoying teen characters meet their demise. I certainly enjoy it. There might also be a sense of envy of youth in the face of one's own advancing age. While some people seem to have their whole lives in front of them, the older we get, the more limited our opportunities become. And the saying, the youth is wasted on the young, sort of, I think, kind of encapsulates that in a way. And these themes are explored in I Know What You Did Last Summer. We have our 4 young leads having the time of their lives. They've got their whole future ahead of them. They're so young and vibrant and good looking. And they have, they're looking forward to the future. And then suddenly, it just takes that one bad decision for a harsh dose of reality to kind of come in and just change everything. And these characters who moments ago were cocky and filled with hope are now turn on each other. And the specter of seeing all those hopes vanish kind of parallels, I think, what happens to a lot of us in our lives. We act and make decisions that, for better or for worse, determine how the rest of our lives will turn out. And the suddenness of the change kind of sparks panic among the characters. But it's ultimately the selfishness of, the douchey jock Barry that wins the day, because he has the most overpowering personality in that group. And so he's like, no. And also he was the one that actually caused the accident. So, yeah. So of course they try and dump the body and forget. And because they have their whole futures ahead of them, they're like, this is going to ruin everything. And it did, but not in the way that they expected, because even though they didn't get caught, their lives were still ruined. It doesn't work. So, because a year later we see, Julie coming home from college looking sad and haunted. And she's now struggling with her grades. The other characters' plans have also failed. The stress of the situation causes both of the couples to break up. Helen had talked about becoming a serious actress and studying in New York. Barry of becoming a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. That's a realistic goal. Both of them eloping to Europe or the Caymans and having children. And instead, the pair have split. And Helen's back in her hometown working retail. And her boss is her sister. And Barry doesn't appear to be doing much of anything except living with his rich parents. And then now Ray has taken on the same job as, other generations in his family and has become a fisherman. So all of these dreams have unraveled because of this one decision. And it's the mystery element of who the killer is that I feel like makes this film a little bit more interesting than your average slasher. I remember there's one film, oh God, I think I talked about on the podcast too, maybe, or I wrote a piece about it for Macabre Daily. But in any case, the killer, and in this particular movie, ended up being just a complete rando. Like, in no way was introduced in any way in the film, and was just like killing people. And so it was so jarring because it just like really kind of came out of nowhere. But in this film, it would be easy to make the killer someone that they know, someone close to them that knows their secret, instead of a, random stranger who happened to be at that spot at the wrong time. But the problem is that same strength is also a little bit of its downfall, because they have to backfill the motive of the killer. We're also not introduced to him in any way until pretty deep in the movie. So for me, it kind of becomes slightly muddled and confusing, because you're like, wait, so was the killer the one that got hit? But wait, no, he went to kill the guy that got hit, and then they hit that dead body. Like, it's muddled in that respect. If there's a significant area that's a bit weak, it's probably that. It's really the reveal of the killer. And on the one hand, the filmmakers, they want to keep you on the edge of the seat, wanting to find out who is this mysterious fisherman. They throw a number of red herrings our way. And it's somewhat effective in that it makes it harder to predict who the killer was. On the other hand, his motivation to kill these particular characters didn't seem enough, except other than by being just kind of insane and exceptionally unwilling to let bygones be bygones. But, and the movie kind of makes it a little too easy for the killer to appear whenever the plot needs him to be. So murdering people and leaving almost no trace, and then quickly and spotlessly cleaning a car trunk that was full of crabs and a dead body. Like, so fast. You would have to haul bags and bags away, and they were right there. So, yeah, it's unrealistic, but, you know, you don't go into a slasher film, particularly one called I Know What You Did Last Summer, with expectations of a lot of reality and, you know, just seamless logic through the whole thing. As far as the performances go, I think everyone's pretty solid. The only one that I really kind of have an issue with is Freddie Prinze Jr., who's really the weak link here. You know, the other three give fairly strong performances for a slasher film, and I think Williamson's script gives the characters a little bit, you know, more depth than maybe other slasher films would, while he kind of gives this likable on-screen presence. Prince's lines readings are really just stilted and awkward, and he just seems to spend most of the film just looking completely bewildered and surprised at everything. It's kind of like Mark Wahlberg's performance in The Happening. If I had to equate it to anything, it's like, wait, whoa, what? Oh, but we can't do that. No. You know, he's just kind of like that. And then he disappears for like the last half of the film until the end, which felt really, really kind of strange. But, you know, I Know What You Did Last Summer is really kind of a time capsule in ways other than its cast. You know, it's got that 90s alt rock kind of soundtrack. I mean, using the internet to search for information is treated almost as a novelty, and it has to be explained to the audience. Seeking, you know, when they seek information about the stalker, the characters stop by a house claiming that their car broke down and ask if they can use their phone. You know, there's no cell phones or smartphones here. For anyone who saw this around the time it came out, there's definitely a feeling of nostalgia throughout. But I have to say, also, it's a great looking movie with really good cinematography. Those opening credits, I mean, I got to agree with Roger Ebert here, are beautiful, beautifully shot. And the film isn't bad enough to be funny, and it isn't good enough to be genuinely compelling. But, you know, making a masterpiece likely wasn't the intention. And I can see the movie's appeal for huge fans of slashers. I mean, altogether, it's an okay movie with some fun moments. And, you know, the 90s nostalgia definitely gives the film charm. And the overall tone is at least lighthearted enough to have a good time watching it with friends. But honestly, there isn't much substance really beyond that. So, you know, I've seen this film a couple of times. And when I think about watching the film, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll give it a watch again. And I always have that feeling when I watch this film. And I think it's because, first of all, every time I watch it, I'm still confused about the relationship between the hook killer, the guy he killed, and why the guy he killed was there at that spot. That's still, I don't know what, my brain just can't get around it or can't retain it. But every single time I'm like, oh wait, oh yeah, I remember this part. It was really confusing. But you know, it's it's more a fun nostalgia watch than anything else. So the movie is available to watch on Xumo Play, YouTube, Amazon Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. And that was I Know What You Did Last Summer. And now let's head over to the Horror Files News Corner. So Stanley Kubrick's The Shining gets explored from a fresh angle in Shine On, the forgotten Shining location. The upcoming documentary, which is, quote, certified by the Stanley Kubrick Film Archive and Family Estate, is said to capture the location scouting and making of the art direction for the Overlook Hotel at Elstree Studios. The documentary itself will premiere on the Stanley Kubrick YouTube channel on Friday, July 26 at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. IndieWire's report details, quote, Michael Sheen narrates Shine On, which includes interviews with The Shining executive producer Jan Hartland, art director Les Tompkins, and Kubrick's daughter, Katharina Kubrick, who worked as a location researcher on the film. They will share memories of the production while also revisiting the iconic studio locations. Quote, there have been so many rumors about some of the sets from The Shining still existing at Elstree Studios, but to actually find them and walk around them was like discovering a holy grail of film history, says director-producer Paul King. Katharina Kubrick added, quote, the production of The Shining has been well documented and analyzed, but this is a story which has never been told. And pivotal scenes from the film took place in these areas, so going back to them felt like stepping into the movie itself. So that will be coming up Friday, July 26th on Stanley Kubrick's YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And also the Popcorn Frights Film Festival is back this year, both in person and virtually, from August 8th to the 18th. They've unleashed the first wave of programming, indicating that the fest is going big for its 10th anniversary celebration with new premieres, virtual screenings, and exciting retro showings, including the lost first cut of Brian Yuzna's Return of the Living Dead 3. To add to the pure mayhem of its anniversary celebration, Popcorn Frights 2024's in-theater experience will be offered free and open to the public as a gift back to the community for 10 years of their dedicated support and movie-going love. Popcorn Frights Free Festival is made possible by the generous support of Nightmare Weekend Miami. Highlights include the 35th anniversary presentation of Brian Yuzna's spectacularly insane masterpiece, Society, one of the ickiest, sweatiest, gloopiest, horniest, and most original body shocker horrors of all time. The Master of Horror will also attend the first screening of the Lost First Cut, Return of the Living Dead 3, featuring 10 minutes of uncovered footage that Brian Yuzna himself hasn't seen. This exclusive screening event is made possible by filmmakers Dustin Ferguson and Chris McGibbon, who unearthed this previously unknown cut of the film, and legendary directors William Lustig and Adam Rifkin are set to join Popcorn Frights for two special double bill events. Brimming with encroaching dread, the festival is also unleashing the supernatural horror film The Grudge with its special 20th anniversary screening attended by writer Steven Susko. Before the screening, a Masters of Horror panel will be moderated by Bloody Disgusting and will feature Brian Yuzna, William Lustig, Adam Rifkin, and Steven Susko. And that doesn't even touch on the brand new film premieres and virtual screenings, including a special presentation of IFC Films' beauty revenge thriller Skincare, starring Elizabeth Banks. And a second wave of Popcorn Frights 2024 titles with more than 24 additional film features will premiere for in-theater and virtual programming, and they will be announced, I believe, next week. So holy cow, that sounds amazing. And it's in person and virtual. So check it out and head to the Popcorn Frights Film Festival website. And that is all from me this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Threads at DeadLiveDana. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes or movies for me to talk about, you can email me at deadlivedana@gmail.com. And until next time, monsters, stay safe, and most importantly, stay spooky.